What it be, what it do? Welcome to another one of the finest video guides slash tutorials. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through like 8 different blogs. And we're going to go through these sites, we're going to check out some of their latest articles, and we're going to break them down and see what sites actually seem to know what they're talking about, what are things that you can actually trust. Let's start out with Search Engine Watch. So we've got this first article here, How to Use Domain Authority for Digital PR and Content Marketing. Presumably that's digital public relations, which is sometimes referred to as online reputation management, ORM. Now, right off the bat here, we got their top articles about Moz's domain authority, which I've talked about a little bit before on this site. There's actually a lot of threads about domain authority on this site. In general, I'm not a huge fan of domain authority, but what they seem to say in this article seems to be mostly, like, not completely stupid. So I'd say it's kind of like a normie tier article that's not amazing, but not the dumbest thing in the world. So Moz's domain authority, for those of you who don't know, is a metric that's used. It's created by Moz, a third-party company, so they try to evaluate by using their own crawlers to figure out how authoritative sites are, because we can't access PR anymore, PageRank, not public relations. So we can't access PageRank data, so Moz is essentially kind of a stand-in. There are other metrics from like Ahrefs or Majestic or like, SEMrush that will do similar things. If it wasn't the very first proprietary metric that was notable, it was certainly one of the first proprietary metrics, and it's also able to be accessed freely. Like, I've discussed this in a few other videos. There's like small SEO tools. I think they duct taped in the Moz API, and you can just get this data. So a lot of people use PageRank and domain authority. They're probably the most common metrics. I don't think they're the best metrics. I personally don't use them at all. I don't think they're very reliable, but they are used pretty widely. So what does this article actually say about domain authority? And essentially, they kind of have the standard sort of intro. People rely too much on DA, which is true. I constantly get like emails where they're like, please, sir, I have a high DA site. Would you like to guest post on my high DA sites? And this intro is pretty standard, kind of normie tier, like, oh, you need links and links and links and links, and how do you evaluate the links? And they basically say how to evaluate links. And they end up coming to like a pretty standard conclusion, which is actually relatively accurate, which is that DA is a reasonable stand-in to try to evaluate things or put things into kind of general categories, but it's not really a super reliable metric that you should use personally. Now, I probably would have talked shit in this article more and said, like, it can be gamed really easily. Like, this is another thing I'll get into more as we scroll down with this article. So if you blast your site with, like, GSA, at least when I've looked at sites before with, like, DA versus, like, Ahrefs or Majestic, like, Moz, DA, and PA, they're definitely the easiest to game just by pure volume of links. So, like, if you get an email from someone where they say, like, I have a high DA site, pay me $50 to post on it, there's a good chance it's gonna be unreliable. So if you just use, like, DA and PA on, like, I don't know, some brand that you know isn't gaming their links, it'll probably be pretty accurate. But if it's from someone who's just messaging you, like, please buy a link for me, there's a pretty good chance they just blast their site with GSA, or they're specifically trying to manipulate it. So if you have the person, like, if they're actually trying to intervene in their site, in their site's rankings, like, they're kind of actually going out of their way to do, like, off-page SEO, a lot of times people who are doing, like, really shitty link building, like, DA will just be thrown completely off to the point where it's not even really useful. So it's gamed very easily, and for that reason, I'd say it's not super trustworthy. But they are correct that, like, you can use it as a kind of general factor to look at general trends. And they say they group this into top tier, mid tier, and low tier. And are they, it doesn't say whether they're doing this only with DA. I would hope they're using something besides just DA to do this kind of grouping. Like top tier, like if you have like a DA of 90, it's like, yeah, okay, well, you're fucking Reddit or like Google. So that's kind of obvious. But like when you get into like middle tier or low tier stuff, those are definitely gamed really easily by spam. So, and top tier stuff is usually obvious. Like if it's like, it's Reddit. It's like, really, the DA's 98? Holy shit, did you know that Reddit has a lot of links? Oh, Twitter has a DA of 99? Holy shit. I wouldn't use DA to group things like that, but it's not the stupidest thing in the world. Their general statements are pretty much right. And this tweet's also right, which is that it's not a bad metric. If you have clients, like, it's not a bad thing to show them. Like, showing your clients general metrics is a good idea so they actually kind of know what's going on. I wouldn't show them DA. And honestly, like, if an SEO consultant, like, if I hired someone and they started, like, showing me DA to, like, show progress, I would wonder why they're not using something more accurate like Ahrefs or like just showing me like the traffic volume. Like I would personally be kind of wary of that. Although I think with like normie tier clients, you could definitely, like, they'd probably look at it and think it was nice. Although if you want to like do a good job for your client, I probably still wouldn't use it. But if you just want to like satisfy your client and you don't really care whether they're actually getting the best data, I think that's a little bit condescending, but you could still do it. So I guess that's right. Now we get into this explanation of top tier sites. And I would say that what they say here is pretty much what I had predicted at the start of this article, where, like, it's like, really, USA Today has a DA of 94? Holy shit, like, whoa. But the thing is that, so, if you don't know, DA and PA, as well as basically every, like, proprietary metric to evaluate search engine authority, roughly, is going to be logarithmic. So going from, like, 10 to 20 is relatively, like, easy. Like, 0 to 5 is going to be super easy. Like, 5 to 10, still pretty easy. Then it gets increasingly harder. So going from, like, 10 to 20 is way harder than that. And then 20 to 30, way harder than, like, 10 to 20 and so on. It's logarithmic. It's like fucking earthquakes. It's how they measure earthquakes. It's the same kind of scale, logarithmic. So getting up to 90 at all, like, even though it's gameable, like, if you have a DA of, like, 90... it's kind of like, well, you are clearly like a massive site. That's not really super surprising that you have a DA of that amount, to the point where it's almost useless to use this metric because it's just obvious. It is hard to game something up to that level. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone like game a site up to like 70 DA. Like, usually when people are messaging me like, I have a high DA site, it's usually like up to like maybe 51 is like the highest where I'll see people like game their sites. Above that, usually it's people who are actually like not even fucking around and they just have a real site that happens to be very successful. So I guess this is fine. I don't think it's super insightful, but I don't think it's like wrong either. Mid-tier sites kind of the same. Like, if you're this high up on the DA scale, it's probably less likely that you're gaming stuff, but I still wouldn't like trust this value out of the box. I guess that's fine. Like, honestly, what I would mostly say is that, like, anything that's going to have, like, a DA, I said 51, but, like, when you start getting into lower stuff, it's just, it's very often gamed, to the point where I wouldn't really trust the metric. And the other thing, Moz's metrics, I think they increased the update frequency recently, but historically they've only updated, like, once per week or whatever, or once per month. So they would be really out of date as well a lot of times. Like, you'd be like most of the way into a month and it's like it hasn't even updated, like there's nothing new showing. So particularly like if things are moving fast or something like went viral, so to speak, it might have a ton of links that aren't showing. Anyway, overall, like, I don't think that this... Oh, there's more of this article. And then this part down here, they basically talk about how it's harder to get link placements in high DA or PA sites, which I don't actually know if that's necessarily true. I don't know exactly what they're referring to by that. Because the other thing is that a lot of times people actually use like the high DA to fuck people around or to mislead people. Where, like, I've talked about the Huffington Post contributor scam recently. Not Huffington Post scamming people, but you'd say, like, I can get you an article on Huffington Post. It's only $700 or $2,000. And you would charge people for these articles. I think they shut down the contributor section. But they'd be in, like, the opinion section. So it's like anyone can post them, and they're orphaned from the rest of the site. So they're not really very authoritative or very useful articles. So it's actually pretty easy to get links from, like, high DA sites, but they're orphaned. So it doesn't matter that they're on a high DA site, because they're not connected to anything. So it's irrelevant. Because DA is also a very broad metric. So different parts of your site, and again, Google handles clusters pretty well. So if you have like a section of your site that does very well, it can be handled separately by search engines than like if it's just some random internal page. So keep that in mind when people are using DA to pitch you articles. Overall, like I would say this article is like adequate. It's not like there's nothing in this article that strikes me as like wrong. Like everything's pretty much fine. It's not like a super impressive article. I think there's some stuff they could do better. I wouldn't hire whoever this is. Dominica de Ortario. Let's actually stalk this person. This might also be... I wonder if this is a guest post. Like, every fucking article on this site... Like, I checked out a few other ones before this video, and they all seem like... Or not all of them, but like this one too. Like, it seems like a guest post. Which is like... I don't quite get why a search engine journal would, like, sell guest posts besides for money. It just seems like that kind of tarnishes your reputation. If you're running, like, kind of really generic normie articles, like, if they have some good stuff in their rotation, but they're just putting, like, stupid shit in there. Anyway, I don't know. This article I checked out, I wasn't super impressed with it. Like, the site is... It just seems like really normie tier news. It's not, like, wrong, but it's also not, like, super insightful or super helpful. Like, this person sounds like... this has 2 articles. What's the deal with that? It's like, does everyone have 1 article? Like, I checked out a few other authors, and they only have, like, 1 or 2 articles. So, like, is this mainly a contributor site or something? But, like, I'm not seeing a lot of, like, authors. It seems like it's people, it's, like, contributor-type stuff. Like, it seems like it's a bunch of, like, SEO consultants just, like, trying to get mentions so they can get publicity and links. Which is funny, because it seems like they're kind of just using it as, like, a high-tier link farm to talk shit slightly. All in all, Search Engine Watch, personally, I would say, like, skip it. Like, it seems kind of generic. I don't have a problem with search engine watch. Like, it seems fine. It's kind of normie tier. A lot of guest post type stuff, but it seems like they have at least a high-ish standard for their guest posts. I'll put this, if we're making a tier list, I'll put this solidly, I'm going to put this solidly in, I'll say like C tier. This is C tier. I'll post a mini fucking tier list below this article. Alright, now we got our homeboy, Brian Dean. I believe I've linked to Brian Dean's site before with the anchor text. The anchor text was Brian Dean's reasonably good guru blog. So that's probably the verdict I'm going to come to here. Spoiler alert. We'll actually see. We're going to check out like the latest article that they've published, which I actually cheated and looked at this in the head. We analyzed 12 million outreach emails. Here's what we learned. So one thing I do like about Brian Dean is that his content generally has a lot of numbers and statistics in it. So like he'll actually go through stuff. And a lot of times when I read some of the stuff by Brian Dean, where it has a lot of statistics and stuff, it'll be like, that kind of seems like it's not like super new to me. It's like, yeah, well, of course that's true. And sometimes there's some interesting stuff. But sometimes there's stuff where it's like, of course that's true. But I'm glad to see there's a lot of data to actually substantiate this, so I'm not just like talking out of my ass. Because like if you look at like the tier list from the other day, there's a few things in there where it was like, I'm like 90% on this, but like if I had a little more data, I could say this more definitively. So there's some nice stuff from Brian Dean on that where you just get more data, and it's actually kind of useful to validate or occasionally reject things that you might not have thought were true or not true. Although you also want to keep in mind like some relationships are not necessarily causal. So like there's some stuff where like there was one he said the other day in a video. I saw this video and it was like 7 like on-page tips or something that I was looking at. And one of them was like shorter URLs help rank better. And he had some data for that, and the correlation seemed pretty clear, like, from his data. Although I kind of questioned whether it was a causal relationship or not. Like, maybe it was, and it seems like maybe it's even possible. Like, if you want to rank for email outreach study, it's possible that, like, just doing that in the URL does help, like, and not putting other shit in there. So just picking your one keyword verbatim, like, maybe that is true. I would kind of want to know I'd kind of want to try to adjust for the confounding variables to say anything too definitive. But anyway, enough about these other articles. Let's talk about Backlinko. And so there are a bunch of statistics here. The main ones that he has in this article is like number of emails. So 8.5% of emails receive a response. And then he talks about like follow-up emails a little later on. And this statistic seems like it's probably about true, both from like my own impressions of people emailing me, and then occasionally like if I email out to other people. Because I do reply to some kind of like, because I do occasionally reply to emails where people say like, give me a nice guest post, sir. And or like I want to pitch my article or whatever. I'll occasionally reply. Like usually if it's just stupid crap, like I won't reply. So like I usually won't even reply. But every once in a while I will. So I'd say like it's probably even true that around like 8.5% of emails actually get a reply. And the general trend that he talks about in the video or the article of like try making customized messages and so on, like I think that's pretty clearly true. Because like you're not going to reply to something generic. So that's another thing where it's like, yeah, of course that's true. Like that's kind of obvious that that's true, but actually seeing some numbers is kind of nice. This is probably true too. And then in terms of like the follow-up emails improving conversion rate, I think this is also true, like partially just because when I get a message from someone and it's like the first message, a lot of times, even if it's kind of customized, like I've seen some outreach emails where they're customized, they're not even customized, but they like look like they are, where they're actually written really well, where it looks custom, even if it's not a custom email. So a follow-up email can help confirm to people that you're not even a robot. So I would say I probably am also more likely to reply to those kinds of like follow-up messages, although I still usually don't. So I think this data is probably about accurate, like maybe 15%, plus or minus 10 to 15%. The one email I did reply to the other day was someone who, like, it was literally just because there was, like, one sentence at the start of it where they said, oh, like, your site is a nice, like, forum and article site. And it's like, you actually would have to have looked at my site and written that custom to say that. So, like, I would say it definitely does help to have some custom stuff. If that's, again, you know, obvious things where it's nice to have some statistics. Yeah, I actually mentioned this earlier. Yeah, I think this is true. What does he say? Response rate is up from 15% to like 20%. That's probably about accurate. And then there's one other good oh, this is also kind of interesting. Well, that's the more interesting part than the Wednesday part. Like those numbers aren't super different. This is probably even true just so that people know that you're real. That's actually not a bad tip. This almost seems like it's just that you sent it to more people so you get more replies. And this actually, like this one down here, that stuff about like marketing gets more replies. I bet that's even true just because there are like a set of sites that are more likely to reply to those because they're just trying to like shill for links and shit. I bet this is true just because there are people who are explicitly like trying to get those emails so they can reply and try to sell links. So that's what I would suspect probably causes this to be higher. Also, yeah, this is also true. Guest posting's not dead. That's fucking bullshit. It's S-tier link building. It is the only good link building strategy. If anyone posts is guest posting dead, if we find an article later in this video called like is guest posting dead, we're putting that fucking site in like F tier. All right, what is his conclusion? Thanks for the data pitch box. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much my impression of, like, most Brian Dean posts. I think they're all, like, they'll be very solid, there'll be a lot of data. A lot of times it's not super surprising, but a lot of times it certainly matters that it's not super surprising, because you can at least validate or try to invalidate whatever hypothesis you might have. So, Backlinko, I'd say out of all the, like, guru blogs that exist, it's probably one that I don't really read it super regularly, but it's one that I would actually say is worth reading, and I call Brian Dean a guru only in terms of like his style sheet and like his success at running it. Like I don't think he's like a scam guru. So Brian Dean, I don't know. I like Brian Dean fine. Oh, and we got to put him in a tier. I'm gonna put fucking Backlinko in like A tier. That might be controversial. That's probably correct. I think that's correct. I'd say I'd put him in A tier. Like there's usually nothing where like my mind is fucking blown. He does have that one really good study about like a list of all the ranking factors analyzed, which again is kind of the same thing. There's data where it's not like super surprising, but it validates a lot of stuff that you kind of hypothesized. It's a post that's worth checking out. So I'm gonna put Brian Dean and Backlinko. They'll go solidly in A tier. And one last note on Brian Dean and Backlinko is I heard in an interview or something. It was something with Brian Dean. He said he used to do like some black hat shit back in the day. So I wonder if that's why his blog is actually halfway decent, is because he like knows some stuff about black hat SEO. Because what I've noticed is even when people even if you're not doing black hat SEO, like to do black hat SEO, you kind of have to be a little autistic and like study a bunch of numbers and fuck around with shit. But white hat SEO is kind of just like write good content and like share it constantly and like try to get links because your content is clean. Like, you can't really do that with Viagra and so on. I wonder if it's plausible that because he did some black hat stuff in the past, like, he actually kind of knows something about what he's talking about. Anyway, that's my theory on Brian Dean and why his blog is not halfway bad. Next, we got our homeboy, Neil Patel. If you don't know about this man, you probably haven't been around the SEO and internet marketing world for super long, since he's mentioned fairly often on basically every kind of SEO forum, blog, and so on. My only interaction with Brian Dean is one time he made an article about, like, people posting shitty, spammy blog comments, so I replied with, like, buy cheap toasters online with, like, some fake anchor text, and he actually approved it, so that's my one interaction with Brian Dean. Other than that, I haven't really read much of his content. Like, it kind of strikes me as sort of, like, basic kind of normie tier stuff, although it may or may not be decent. Let's actually find out. And let's see, we want to know about what? Let's learn about a nice SEO. A nice fucking SEO. We got a video, and what's this? This is an article. Check out an article, and we'll check out a video too. Oh, look, it's the link to fucking Brian Dean's article. That every fucking... Oh, it is! It's totally him! Every fucking site in the world links to this goddamn article, because it's actually pretty good. Yeah, look at this shit. I'll even link this below. This is actually a pretty decent article. Some of the stuff, again, it's kind of like, sort of obvious. Whereas, like, oh, of course that's true, but some of his stuff's actually, like, kind of new data. So, there's a lot of data. You should probably read this article if you haven't already. So, the first thing I'm, like, asking myself in this article by Neil Patel is, like, what is the point of this article besides to shill for your fucking tool? Like, it feels like it flows well, it's, like, written well, but I don't know what the point of this article is at this point. And I'm, like, halfway through this thing. So, his tips are, speed is everything. You gotta go fast, which is, like, true, I guess. I mean, it is true. This is a trend that's true in basically everything. Insert obligatory Jordan Peterson clip here. You'll probably have a small number of posts that are like most of your traffic, so this is also true. You can do both of these. I actually have an on-page SEO guide, and you can optimize both for your like semantic meaning and your ranking, but also optimize your click-through rate. Update your old content. I don't know what my opinion on this post is. If you're brand new to marketing, like, I don't think anything he says here is wrong. It's also nothing that's, like, super exciting, I suppose. This is kind of like one of his normie tier posts. Maybe he has something more advanced. It's the kind of thing where if you were, like, new to internet marketing, it might be kind of motivating. Although as far as the like tips go, they're sort of entry level and they're kind of obvious, honestly. I think it's well written, I suppose. Like, it's well written. He's good. He's good at like kind of being a guru type person. And I don't hate this content. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. I wouldn't read this post on purpose. Let's see if he has something that's like a little more in depth. How to build backlinks in less than an hour. Let's check this one out. And he's got his link for Uber suggest, so I guess that's probably good for him. What is his tip? Backlinks. This is just talking about his tool that he has. Where does it talk about the links? Does it even talk about links in this article, or is this article title just kind of like a non sequitur? Like, I think it's a fine tool. I don't think this title is relevant to this actual topic. It seems kind of irrelevant. Like, even if you could dig up some... I guess that's what he's saying, is you can dig up links with his tool, which is probably true. There are a lot of tools you can do that with, like dig up competitor links. But that's not the same as building them. You have to go find them, and that's a whole process. So I don't think this title is even accurate. It's a fine written article, but, like, it's not really a good article. This is honestly not, like, a great article. I would be happy to pay someone to write this article. Like, it's well written from, like, being a guru perspective, but there's nothing in this article. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to learn from this. Let's watch a video. So I just watched this whole video. And really the actual, like, SEO note that he has here is that, like, there are metrics like bounce rate. Like, Google can detect if there's, like, a bounce, like, if you bounce and then they go to a different site. Like, if you go to, like if we click on this, and then we go back, you can see it can tell that we bounced. Like, so Google clearly can tell that people have, like, bounced. It seems pretty likely that they use, like, bounce rate and click-through rate as part of a metric to determine how satisfied users are with results. So I think that's, like, a fine point. He does also say some stuff in there that I think is, like, not true, where he says, like, it doesn't matter how... Like, you can't rank without, like, perfect bounce rate and so on, and, like, you should only focus on that. Or not only focus on it, but you should focus really heavily, because, like, links don't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. Does he literally say links don't matter anymore? And he talks about, like, how... if your site doesn't have good user engagement, like if you have a high bounce rate and so on, you won't rank even if you have good links and so on, which seems to be partially true. And it seems pretty likely that click-through rate and bounce rate do have an impact on search results. Although this video is also somewhat of an exaggeration, people definitely link with relatively thin and or boring keywords, and often for relatively interesting and that can even be true for keywords that are relatively profitable. So there's only really so much you can do in terms of getting good user retention. Like if you're running like a best clippers for black hair kind of affiliate site, like the one we were talking about in the other video. So I'd say, yeah, you should try to like care whether your users actually stay on the page and actually like buy your thing. It's not a bad SEO point. It's a little general. I think this is better than either of the two articles that we checked out. I would say Neil Patel probably knows something about SEO. Like, he obviously has a site that ranks very well, so I guess there's that. The articles on his site, they definitely seem more normie tier than Backlinko. I personally, I haven't found anything on here that I found, like, super interesting. There's nothing in these posts where it's like, this is just wrong blatantly. It's the kind of content that I think would be really engaging to people who are, like, new to SEO and they want some kind of motivating, yeah, you can, like, do the you can get the result, and you just got it right again, you know what I mean? I would say his tips are at least from what I've seen in these few articles, they're not super exciting or super insightful from what I've seen. Personally, I would pass on following his blog. There are some people who I guess follow it. I would put this above Search Engine Watch. Search Engine Watch is just super generic and terrible, so I guess I'd put this at B. If Brian Dean is A and Search Engine Watch is C, then Neil Patel is going to go in B tier. The one thing that you might note about Neil Patel is that there are a lot of people who have accused him of stealing content. And what it sounds like is that he has ghostwriters that he hires to write people's content. So in terms of like the quality of content on his site, like it seems fine as like novice-y content, and maybe that is because a lot of it, or at least some of it, is reused by other people who wrote it. So I guess that would have two different things there. So like it would depend on if the content is rewritten, it would depend on whether or not like it was rewritten by someone who was actually halfway, or from an article that was already halfway decent in the first place. And then the other thing is, well, if it is just rehashed shit, like there might still be some value in reading it because it might actually be something that's good, but like everything on that site was all very basic. So as far as blogs go, I don't really see a reason why you would benefit in particular from reading Neil Patel's blog. The stuff on there seems like fine novice kind of content. It may or may not be stolen from people. The real question would be like, to what extent is all this content stolen? So if most of the actual stuff on this site is stolen, then it's like, well, you'd kind of put that in like F tier just because, well, now you're just reading a rehash of another site that has various people complaining about it. So if that is the case, like I would put this probably down in like F tier. So I'm going to put this in like C tier. Well, I'll put it in like a C question mark tier. So, like, if that is true, I'd put it down in, like, D tier. So, like, as far as the content goes, some of it's not too bad in terms of just generic beginner content. If it is all stolen content, though, then, like, probably you should actually just go find the original authors and read their posts. Let's move on to Search Engine Journal, and this is another site that they're like Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Watch, and all that. I kind of just end up confusing them all. It's like, oh, it's a generic SEO blog. But let's give all these a fair shot and see, just completely unbiased. We'll start from scratch and we'll check out a few articles. Let's see what's something that's actually about SEO. SEO contests are useless and should be ignored. That's just a summary of the Wix thing. Oh, we'll look at. We'll check out this one too. So for those of you who don't know, this is very obviously a reference to like the Wix, to this contest Wix had. I heard they had this contest already like last year and they didn't pay out the prize because some guy like asked his friends to like link to his site. So they did, but then Wix didn't pay the thing out. And it's like, Wix, why did you start an SEO competition and then you got salty that people played the game that you asked them to play? Which is kind of actually what Google says in this article. I actually already read this one before this video, which is where Google basically says this contest is stupid and it's just going to create spam, which is probably true. But anyway, the point is, this contest is stupid. I wouldn't enter this contest. I think it's stupid. I think you could play in this contest and not like just blatantly spam. Like you could go build guest posts and have an actual targeted page. Like if you already had a page targeting Wix SEO, then you might fuck around with it. Like I think you could do this contest in a non-spammy way. I'm not opposed to the concept of this contest. But if they're not going to let people even, like, ask their friends to link to the fucking site in the contest they created, then it's like, well, what is the point of this? Well, I guess Wix agrees with Google, but then what's the point of this contest? I guess it's not a terrible article. I'm glad that I know of this fucking shitty gossip. I don't know. Let's look at something that's actually about SEO. User engagement and SEO and tips to boost it. So this might be about, like, bounce rate and the same stuff from that last article with Neil Patel. These articles all kind of seem like the same shit as the ones from, whatever that other one, Search Engine Watch, where it's just people who are like, they'll post like, I guess she has 4 articles, but it's all like contributor shit where it's not very exciting and they clearly just want like this author bio link. But they do seem to have, they seem like really high quality link farms, I'll say that. They're like the top tier of link farms, like even like readable link farms. This is probably true, but they don't really have any insight as to, like, why or, like, any real details. That's not user engagement. That's just called fucking the PageRank algorithm. That's not user engagement. What are you even talking about? This whole section is just PageRank. It is kind of just an abstraction of bounce rate. That's probably even true. Like, they probably do take into account whether people bounce immediately and so on. You can do this, but you'd probably want to filter to make sure you're only looking at page views from organic traffic. And it usually won't tell you the keyword or so on, so that's like not super useful. I mean, this is basically just saying you can use analytics to figure out like basic analytics data. This whole last part is like a completely unrelated rant. Again, this is basically a list of things that are true. There's no really exciting data or actually anything super interesting. Like, I wouldn't really question most of this. Like, most of it's true, but it's either so basic that I don't care or, like, so obvious that it's almost not worth writing about. This is a halfway decent article, like, but who cares about, like, the 15th best news site for SEO? I wouldn't recommend reading, like, the fucking C tier of SEO. You might as well read, like, the good stuff and then kind of skip over this sort of normie tier trash. I wouldn't call it trash, that's mean. This normie tier content, we'll say that. This is C tier. This whole site's C tier. And I feel like I'm going to end up saying the same thing about all these ones that have, like, search engine in the URL or the domain name, is, like, they just seem like they are all the same kind of, like, borderline content farms that have adequate articles that are not insightful. Let's do another one real quick. So here we are on Search Engine Land. Let's see if Search Engine Land is the exact thing that I just said. First of all, I want to know, are these contributors, are these also just going to be like people with 3 articles where it's just like shitty contributors? This person actually has more articles, so that seems like it's a promising sign. This person actually has articles. Holy shit, do they have authors? Wow, this might be like C+ tier. Let's check out the actual content, but I might put this above the other two. So these are almost more like informative, like this is almost more like press releases from Google. Which, like, there's not that much to complain about that. This isn't even really about SEO, it's more just like, here's a tool that exists. Alright, great. Very nice. What's something that's, like, about SEO? This is more all about, like... Yeah, a lot of this is just, like, SEO news, which is actually probably more useful than terrible, mediocre, like, articles from the other 2 sites. This is kind of an entry-level article about remarketing, remarketing keywords, which is a thing. Find people who you know have already engaged with you previously and then show the same ads to them again. Kind of the same as a lot of branding type stuff where it's the more people see the same thing, the more they trust it and so on. So people seeing things multiple times, you can increase your conversion rate substantially. As far as actual, this is almost more like it's just like this, remarketing exists. It's pretty basic, this article. I think it's a fine article. It's more like if you were new to SEO, it's kind of like, did you know you can do this? And some people probably didn't. Yeah, it looks like these are pretty much all like SEO news. I'd put this in like, I'm going to put this in even like C+ tier. No, I'm going to put it in B tier. There's no C+ tier. There is no fucking C+ tier. I might actually demote those other two and put this. No, it's going to be fucking C. It'll be B tier. It's B tier. Search engine land, congratulations, you're in B tier. Next, we're going to do the Ahrefs blog. So everyone knows Ahrefs is a tool, but they actually have a blog as well. Now, out of all the sites on here, I might even put this, I'm going to probably end up putting this pretty high up on the list. I actually like the Ahrefs blog. You would think it'd be like some kind of shitty bullshit because they're just shilling for their tool, but they actually have some pretty decent stuff on here, and there's usually some figures and so on, which makes sense because they actually run a crawler, so like they probably have a lot of data to talk about. Let's check out this article. Some quality Matt Cutts, my homeboy. Well, this is all introductory. It's actually pretty well written. They actually mark up their images so they're easy to see. The arrows are a nice touch, and they have the formatting for the content. Pretty straightforward at this point. Then we got our table of contents. Does this do the thing? Yeah, this is actually, you could get jump to links with this. So quality table of contents. I constantly see this now that I am aware that you can do jump to links. And they also have this nice touch with the lazy loading images, which should improve their page load times. I hear that they're going to add lazy loading to the actual, like, so you can just put like a link or an image to be like image type equals lazy loading or something. Like, this is something that people are working on with the HTML standards, so you should be able to actually do that soon-ish, vaguely, which would be nice because then you don't have to actually code this. So far, these are all pretty like straightforward fixes. It seems like the kind of article where they probably even get decent search volume from it, like people just looking for these errors and how to fix these things. This third one here, the one thing I would nitpick about this is I think it's bullshit to submit a sitemap to Webmaster Tools. I don't even use Webmaster Tools anymore. From what I've seen, it seems like when you submit a sitemap to Webmaster Tools, it just like takes your sitemap and is like, all right, we got it. But it's like they already know where to find it, and they probably don't crawl your site any sooner just because you sent them their sitemap again. Like they probably just fetch it again when they access your site. It seems like it's just some bullshit where it makes you feel like you're doing something. So I would skip the part about actually submitting your sitemap, honestly. You could do it anyway. It probably doesn't hurt. But yeah, having a sitemap is good. Submitting it to Google's Google Webmaster Tools is kind of pointless. Yeah, this is mostly orphaned pages. That's actually a good point too. This is actually a good like technical SEO point. Just don't do that. Don't have orphaned pages. I don't know how you would get into that scenario, but if you needed to fix it. Yeah, this is internal links. That's also some good advice. Yeah, this is like a fine article. This is actually a pretty solid article, I would say. It probably gets good volume from people looking for these specific solutions, and there's actually some good like technical SEO tips in there. So this is even a pretty solid article. There's some other articles they have that are a little more exciting. Let's check out one more just for the lulz. Let's do this kind of general one. Improve CTR, kind of straightforward, and they do a nice shill for their tool in there, so that's probably good for them, I guess. I'd actually say the opposite of this. Don't fucking boost your underperforming pages. That's retarded. Take your winning pages and make your winning pages move really hard. So people always try to save their failing shit, but that's stupid. Just cut all your failing shit free and then pick the stuff that's really good and just focus on that. So take the things that's kind of winning and make that win really hard. So take the thing at position 9 and try to push that to position 1. Like, obsess over your best things. Don't, like, fuck your stupid shit. Fuck that. Don't fucking waste all your time on stuff that is crap. But they are right, though, that internal links can boost pages. That's also true. This is also kind of a guide that's kind of shilling for, like, their tool, obviously. But, like, their tool is actually good, so I'm not even salty about that. This is definitely true. Like, if you have an order page or like buy shoes, it's hard to rank. It's hard to get links to like a buy shoes page. So this is actually a good idea. Is you can make like articles that will actually get links and try and funnel your authority around. People do that with like scholarship link building. This is talked about in the other video, the one like the SEO link building methods tier list. So that's not bad advice. Featured snippets. This is kind of look at Steve's guide on like schema and so on. It's a little bit related. Snippets are kind of anarchy. Like, there's a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily completely in your control, and a lot of the stuff that goes into building snippets. There's some like technical SEO you can do, but a lot of it is just anarchy, where it's like it's kind of like they're just pulling it from the thing they think is like the best. So it's like, well, try to rank one, and if you're one of the top results, you're much more likely to get a snippet anyway. A lot of the advice about getting featured snippets tends to just be like, rank really hard. Like, really, that's just the main, it's just the same as ranking normally, except you're just going to be more likely to get the snippet if you are ranking normally, if you already have a lot of authority anyway. Refresh content. I talked about this in the other video. Low-hanging content. Unlinked mentions. This is kind of guru shit. Like, well, you might be able to get unlinked mentions. I actually haven't tested this one. I didn't even include this in the SEO link tier list. I think it's kind of probably sort of like bullshit. Maybe, they might be. It's probably better than the 404 link method. I think this is stupid, though. No one replaces 404 links. Despite my nitpicking, I would say this is still like a pretty good blog. There's some stuff I've read on here where there's solid data, because they are, you know, href, so they actually have a lot of data to pull from. Even their kind of normie tier stuff, they do write pretty well, and it has images and like diagrams and so on. And some of the stuff, even the normie tier stuff, like it's actually stuff that's not super obvious necessarily if you're new to SEO. So I would definitely say the hrefs blog, even if you don't use hrefs, it's a good blog to follow. So I would recommend it, despite my nitpicking earlier. So I would put them in A tier with Brian Dean and Backlinko. Next, we're going to talk about Search Engine Roundtable. Now, the gimmick on this site seems to be, yeah, it looks like they have a set of forums, or they base their content on, like, search engine forums. So if you read this section, they go into more depth. And essentially, their gimmick is that they summarize and compile and syndicate / discuss content from various search engine forums, which makes sense considering the name of the site. Let's check out some of the content. This seems like a fine post. Like, this is actually kind of an interesting idea to summarize different content from different sites. As far as this specific topic, Google search algorithm update, I've never quite understood why people talk about supposed algorithm updates, because there's an algorithm update every 4 or 5 minutes. A lot of the time, it seems like when people talk about algorithm updates, it's either such a, like, not even notable update that who cares, or it's something where it might even be an update. It's just like some people happen to have things change, and there's so many people on the forum that surely 1% saw a notable ranking change in the last few days, so of course they comment, and then it's just confirmation bias. There are some tools, though, like I think he links. There are some tools, though, like what he shows here, that can kind of pin down a little more objectively whether there's an algorithm change. Generally, I think they're not even really worth discussing, although I like this concept, though. Let's see what else is on here. Maybe something a little more exciting. This looks like it's not actually a forum thread. It's just a general article, which is probably... This looks like it's more of a general article than a forum thread. Kind of the same as the search engine land type content. Here are some updates of general kind of news. Usually I'm not really sure what to do with this information. Like, oh, they made some like changes to how the image search works. Like, okay, but that doesn't change how I'm going to change. But that doesn't really change how you're going to actually target sites. That's a fine story. It seems like it's written fine. It's probably accurate. Yeah, it looks like for the most part, a lot of these stories are essentially kind of generic. Either just like news type stuff. This is obviously like a fluff story. This is a fine site. I'm going to put this in... Let's see. I like it. I definitely like it more than like Search Engine Watch and Search Engine Journal. I don't know if I'd put it in like B tier. I want to say like C+ tier. I already did that. Actually, you know what? We're gonna put it in like, if we're doing S through F, we have more tiers. I'm gonna put this in C tier, and I'm demoting more. I'm demoting fucking Search Engine Watch and Search Engine Journal. These are fucking D tier. They're not terrible, but they're D tier. I like this concept. That's the only reason I'm putting this higher. Like, the content for the most part isn't super exciting. I don't know why I would bother reading it. It's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, that's like interesting, but there's nothing to do with the information. So it's fine. This is a fine site. Like, this is a fine site. I will say that. This is a completely fine site. I like the concept. It's fine. It's a fine site. It is the finest of the sites. The most fine of all the sites. This is a fine site. we're actually going to throw a bonus one in here as a little side note. So this blog is actually good. I've read a few things from this dude. He's like an SEO, he's like an SEO, I guess, SEO web dev and research. We'll just read his bio verbatim. He has discovered several pretty notable search engine manipulation, like security type bugs. Like there's this one here, XSS attacks on Googlebot allow search index manipulation. There's another one from like a year ago about sitemaps. I will link this below. This is a little bit different from the other ones that we mentioned because it's not really like a news blog. Like you can see he has like a post in May, there's like nothing in April, and there's one at the start of March. So he's posting like once every like 2 months. So it's not quite like a news story. So it's not quite like a news story site, but like basically everything this guy has posted, or maybe not everything. I haven't read everything this guy has posted. This guy has posted several things that have been very good over the last like year or two. So this is not quite the same category, but I'm throwing this in here anyway just because I like this site. This is even. I'm gonna put it in like A tier. I'll put it in A tier up with hrefs and backlink. Did I put hrefs in that tier? I guess I didn't write this down, but yeah, I totally did. So this is up in A tier with like hrefs, the hrefs blog. Yeah, like this would be an S tier. Like if there were content like of this quality coming out daily, this would definitely be an S tier. That's the only thing that I would keep this site not being an S tier. Also, some of the stuff isn't purely SEO type stuff. Like this looks like a Facebook type thing. What are these actually? Like, if this blog were updated daily, or not even daily, like, if this blog were updated more frequently with the same quality of content, this would be solidly an S-tier site. I'm putting it in A tier since there's only a very high-quality article, like, every several months. What a hard life. Finally, we got our homeboy, MatthewWoodward.co.uk. I've seen this site a few times before. My impression is that it's, like, solidly adequate. All the stuff on this site is, like, it's set up perfectly to be, like, a guru blog, like a profitable guru blog. But it's set up very well to be like a profitable site where he sells his ebooks and so on. He has like affiliate offers and other things. As you can see from the optimized landing page. Sir, I can make you a nice landing page. Sir, I can do you a nice on-page white hat SEO. Where the fuck is his actual blog? Actually, where the fuck is his actual blog? Where the fuck is the fucking thing, actually? Where is your... Is there not, like, a nav bar? Can we have, like, a nav bar up in here? I don't want to do this. This feels like... Blog. Just give me the blog. Articles? Is there, like, an archive? Is there no archive? That seems really weird if there's no archive. There must be, like, an archive page. Like, but, like, everything. Just give me all of it. I want to see, like, everything. Not, like, some of the things. I don't know, maybe there's a reason why this is like this. Where is the blog? It's been like 2 minutes since I started asking where the blog is. You know what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do this, and we're just gonna like find the top thing that comes up, like the most recent thing. Time to do some reading. Alright, fair enough. Bing has some volume, although you want to note when you're working with Bing, or thinking about Bing, it also depends on your target demographic. Like, if your niche is like fucking like Viagra, like literal Viagra for like elderly people, they might use Bing more. I'm not even just like talking shit. Like literally like older people probably use Bing more. I really don't see much traffic from Bing, although that's probably because all the niches I've been in have been mostly niches full of like young people. For at least the niches I've been in, I haven't seen that much traffic from Bing that has made it really worth it to even think about it explicitly. I mean, most of what you do for just search engine optimization in general for Google largely ends up being basically roughly the same as what other search engines are looking at. I think there's actually a story I saw where it was like Bing at one point was just like scraping Google search results and like using them as a ranking factor. That was like literally true. I think there was like a lawsuit that was like settled out of court or something. That might not be true about the lawsuit. Yeah, I'll link to this story below. So from my experience, it hasn't been super worth it, but I do constantly wonder, like, are there things I could do, like, for being better than Google? Like, so we're going to read this article. We're going to find out. Infographic is a nice touch. Bing Webmaster Guidelines. Let's read these. I have read these, and they're basically the same as the Google Webmaster Guidelines. This might actually be true. Google's pretty good with detecting, like, in-page content, like JavaScript type stuff, although it's possible Bing isn't as good. That's something I always wonder about, though. Like, I'm sometimes reluctant to do things with, like, fancy like JavaScript like loading stuff in, where I wonder like, is this gonna fuck up like how Bing processes this, or how Yahoo or like AOL processes this, or like even just like other non-search engine scrapers and tools. It's a valid practice. Hell yeah, dude. This is actually like, I kind of like that this document just like says stuff like pretty directly without like fucking people around. Like Google would never publish something this direct. They might have something like basically this direct. That is nice that you kind of just like, yes, this is basically what you should do, and these are probably even correct. Something, don't have like link scheme, social media farms. That's the same thing as a fucking general link scheme. Alright, whatever. That's like it's kind of exactly what you would expect. Bing webmaster tools. I think I've actually used this several years ago, but that was like a long time ago. That might actually be interesting. Just kidding. No, it's not. It's a fucking 404 link. Bing webmaster blog. What do they say on here? Hell yeah. A lot of this stuff is like, I mean, it's kind of just supporting the conclusion that I already had, which is that it's basically the same as Google. At least what they're saying publicly here. This is all like pretty similar. Like, let's see if there's actually like a specific ranking signal. Page authority, of course that's true. Keyword and domain. That might actually be true. Like, I was ranting about EMDs, exact match domains, yesterday in that other video. And one thing that does seem like is potentially true is that Bing is like a little bit behind Google in terms of stuff. So like some stuff that doesn't work for Google, like I wonder if exact match domains are actually like effective if you just care about Bing. Like if you do like WerthersOriginalFanClub.com or like buy Werther's Original, like I wonder if that would be super profitable. Someone fucking buy that domain and like register buy Werther's Original and like shill for. Can you buy these on Amazon? Can we get like an Amazon link for like Werther's Original? Hell yeah, you totally can buy these on Amazon. So I wonder, like, there might be some outdated stuff. That's what I've heard people hypothesize for a while now, and it does seem to be kind of true when I, like, check things in Bing and, like, fuck around a little bit. It seems like Google, like, they do take into account, like, the EMD a little, or the domain name a little more directly. Like, the 256 kilobytes, like, that definitely ranked faster and more quickly as a brand name at the top of the Bing results than the Google results when that was first registered. So that does seem to be, like, something that's plausibly true. Most of these are already things that are pretty much already true in general. The one I do wonder is, I've heard this several times, is like social signals are more important on Bing than Google. And I was talking about how fucking social signals on like Google, they're just links. Like they're literally just abstractions of links because you get a like, so now your link is not just on your profile, it's also on the person who liked you's profile. So now you have two links from Twitter instead of one, and maybe it's a link on a really high authority page. Alright, that's a short version of that. But I do wonder if social signals do more on Bing. I wonder if they say anything about this. I've heard people say this constantly, but I have never heard anyone substantiate this claim that like social signals are more important on Bing. I've heard it asserted many times. So I'm going to pull up, literally I just had the Bing Webmaster Guidelines up here. And so I think this is just the same thing that I already said like 18 times about PageRank. So they do explicitly say here, social media plays a role in today's effort to rank search results. Most obvious part, it plays via influence. If you are influential socially, this leads to your followers sharing your information widely, i.e. linking to them, motherfucker. Linking to them. They're called links. They're called links. Let's not use these fucking, like, obscure, like, ooh, it's a fucking social signal. It's a link. It's a fucking link. Your followers sharing. Linking. It's called linking, motherfucker. Christ. These signals, these positive signals, links, these links can have an impact on how you rank organically in the long term because fucking Bing, first of all, just scrapes Google results. Or at least they have in the past. And Google just uses links. They use links from social media. They're not a special thing. They're not a special thing. Read the Jeb Bush article. Read the Jeb Bush article. Do more claps on Medium. I swear to God, if anyone can prove me wrong that I'm, like, fucking wrong about this, like, I'll fucking even change my mind. Like, I've thought about this probably way too much, and I'm like, pretty sure that this is correct, and that they're just, like, obscuring this for the lulz or something. They don't have access to, like, Facebook or Twitter's database. They just crawl web pages and look at the links. Someone please prove me wrong. Like, I would love to hear like a fucking explanation that isn't the one that I have been asserting is clearly true. All right, so this is kind of I think this is just the same as Google mostly. Like, possibly these two are no, not fuck this. This is maybe notable. User engagement. Have they said this? Like, is he talking out of like data, or is he just kind of saying things? Like, I want to know how these compare in contrast to Google, because I don't think that these are like they seem like they're true statements, but the real question is what is it like in contrast to Google? And there doesn't seem to be anything in this article really indicating like this is how it is different from Google. Like, they're just saying these are factors. Like, of course they're factors. We already knew that. Like, does he have anything to substantiate this? This is actually interesting. Bing authorship. I might check this out more. I don't know how much it would affect like your rankings, but that might help with like, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of just like a different way of having like structured data. Like, it's kind of the same concept basically, but they have like a menu instead of that. I don't know. Whatever. This is also just an assertion. Like, I hear people say things like this. Like, most of these are claims I've heard like floating around, but I've never heard anyone really substantiate them with any kind of hard data. Fucking Brian Dean, do this case study. Do this fucking like Bing case study and like bring me some data. Be my fucking slave, Brian Dean. Write me a case study. It'd probably even be profitable if he did. He totally should do that anyway. Anchor text. Well, what do you mean more? So I don't dispute these things are true, like they're important, but like more important. This one I've actually observed personally. Like, literally with the 256 kilobyte site. What do you mean page authority? Site authority? Where's the source for any of these things? Well, yes, obviously, they use their own proprietary version. These are just assertions. I'm gonna fucking post in the Slack chat right now and tell fucking Sherbert Hoover to stab this man. This is a bad article, and you should feel bad. I might put this lower than Search Engine Journal. This is trash. This is a bad article. Google ranking factors. When is this written? 2019, so this is supposed to be up to date. Is he literally talking about EMDs? Oh, this is actually a relevant link. I think it's like the Google patent. This is actually interesting. This is actually not a bad idea for like a post, is like go through a bunch of Google patents. He says that this is a positive factor, then he literally says that it's not. I don't even think this is really true. Like, at least not in any substantial way. I already talked about these yesterday. There's actually some nice, like, patents cited. This factor, this seems like it's more something for, like, detecting spam rather than, like, boosting sites. Like, it seems like it's more of, like, a criteria, like, one of many minor things you might use to try to detect whether a domain is like, should be flagged as maybe needing, like, a manual review. But it sounds like it's something that would almost certainly be used with other factors. Like, there are a lot of legitimate domains that just renew every 1 year. But this is kind of interesting. This is definitely better than the Bing article, like substantially better than the Bing article. Although I still like question some of the stuff in here. This is actually a thing that I think is true. I haven't experimented with this personally, but it would make sense to that TLDs targeting regions would have like some impact. Although it seems like you'd probably not want to like rely too hard on that or like be able to override that. Like if you were Google, like it seems like there are reasons why you might not always want to use. Like, that might not always, like, line up perfectly, but it does kind of make sense as a ranking factor. Like, I've also heard of, like, the weird extended TLDs, like .wedding, like, give some semantic information about a domain. Although it seems like the kind of thing where, like, it would be a very... Like, it would have to not be, like, the biggest fucking ranking factor. This is probably another thing where it's like a footprint they might detect PBNs on. I doubt it's like a ranking signal. It's more of like a flag, probably. That's my impression. I obviously don't like know 100%. Penalized who is owner. That's interesting. It's the same thing with a lot of these other ones where it's like I can't find any reference, but there are some examples that I'm not going to post here. This is another thing, he's just talking out of his ass. This blog, I actually fucking hate this blog. I thought I was gonna put this blog in, like, B tier, but I actually, like, fucking hate this blog. I wanna fucking burn this blog down. This is the worst site. I, like, went into this video, like, I'm not gonna talk shit about anyone, but I literally, like, this is a bad blog. This is just wrong. These things are not even true, or they're like too simple, or they're just like assertions where there's like nothing in it. It looks really clean. I think the site looks really good. Like, it looks like it's a great guru blog. This is a terrific guru blog. This is a guru. This is a fucking guru. This is like the quintessential guru. This is a guru. 100% guru. This is a fucking guru blog. This is 100% guru as fuck. Matthew Woodward, fight me IRL. This is true though. Title 10 is also true. I mean, it's just like basic on-page SEO. Also, watch our on-page SEO video. This, I think, is misleading, like, because you can put, like, 20 different H1s in your page. Like, it's kind of up to you how you use H1s. The standard is to have your title be in the H1, like your main title, then you would have subheadings. But I have articles with, like, multiple H1s, and different people have different conventions for H1s. So, when you say H1, I would refer to that more as, like, the first heading on the page, but people use H1s differently. That's kind of nitpicking. Headings... It's kind of a standard thing to have, like, some keywords in your headings or, like, sections about particular things. And that works pretty well with, like, jump to links as well. This is, like, so basic, I don't even know what to say about it. It's, like, basic, but then it'll also, like, just occasionally be wrong. So, this is a long-ass article. There's a lot of links in it, or a lot of items in it. And a lot of them, like, are even true, but, like, there are some where it's, like... That's kind of a controversial statement. Like, you kind of need something to back that up, and they don't really have anything backing up their statements. So this blog, it states a lot of stuff, and a lot of it's kind of just talking out of this guy's ass without any kind of substantiation, especially for, like, stuff that's, like, not super clear, or, like, that people wouldn't necessarily agree on. Like, there are some where you kind of just say it, you don't have to really go into much depth, but there's some shit where it's, like, you're kind of just, like, saying stuff. What is this section called? Site factors? Like, I don't quite understand what that even has to do with SEO. Or as a ranking factor. It might be indirectly a ranking factor because people, like, won't visit your brand because they don't buy things, so you don't have as much engagement. But that's not even, like, that's so tangential and, like, so many tiers away that it's almost, like, not even worth discussing. Like, yeah, you drove your brand into the ground. No one clicks on your links because they think you, like, killed 1 million children. This is a terrible article. Like, I hate to be so blunt about, like, this is a shitty fucking article, but, like, this is a bad article. It's well written, and it looks really good, and the site looks really good. But both of the articles I went through, they're bad. Like, they're bad articles. Like, and you kind of have to read them to realize, like, wait, this is a bad article. I feel really bad, like just shitting on this site. Because I thought it would be higher up there in the rankings. I have to put this in, like, E tier. Like, this is a bad site. And he gets, like, a lot of traffic, too. But it's a bad site. This is a bad site. God bless fucking Scruffed Dog for reminding me to look at this. Like, this is a bad site. This is a bad site. Alright, this is the E tier of sites. Okay, we went through all these sites. I'll post the final definitive tier list. Actually, I'll just copy-paste it into, So this is the definitive tier list. I'll post this below this video, too. Backlinko and Hrefs and TomAnthony.com are A tier. There's nothing in S tier, except 256 kilobytes is clearly in S tier. 3 sites in A tier. We got Neil Patel and Search Engine Land in B tier. Then we got SE Roundtable in down in C tier, Search Engine Watch and Search Engine Journal down in D tier. Even though they're in D tier, like I don't even think their sites are, like, bad. I think they're fine. And then finally we have, like, MatthewWoodward.com, who says a lot of stuff. Like the D tier sites, they say, like, sort of self-explanatory stuff, but it's like, at least you're not making, like, extravagant claims with zero evidence for them. I'd rather have someone rehashing things that are actually true than just start saying shit with, like, no evidence. Like, this is how these rumors get started. This is why SEO is trash, Matthew Woodward. You fucking ruined my life. You fucking ruined SEO. It's people like you who do shit like this, where they just, like, talk out their ass and, like, just say shit. This is why there are SEO rumors, is someone on a fucking flashy site like Matthew Woodward will say some shit, and they just assert that it's true. They just assert that it's true, and it looks really nice because their site's, like, has a ton of authority, like, it has a lot of links. It looks really good. The article's really long with, like, nice markup. But it's fucking completely unsubstantiated. Both of those articles were just completely unsubstantiated, saying, like, extravagant claims with zero evidence. Some parts in them were fine. I actually learned like one or two things, but the SEO content is just complete bullshit. That is, now I'm even like saltier now. I want to put this in like F tier. This is how SEO rumors get started. Actually, yes, this is an F tier. This is an F tier site. This is why SEO discussions are trash. This is why Indians try to sell you Paul and Angela links. Because people just talk out their ass on authoritative looking blogs. In conclusion, sir, I can do you a nice SEO. So we have our final rankings down here. We have Backlinko and Ahrefs in number 1. They're both very good blogs. They have a lot of data, so even when they say stuff that's like, it's kind of obvious, it's usually backed up by some data and some actual charts or diagrams and so on. We also have Tom Anthony. That would be up in S tier if that had a few more updates per year. Like, it honestly could be in S tier anyway, just because the content's so good. Like, it depends on how much you care about frequency of content updates. Search Engine Land is fine. If you need, like, SEO news, it's, like, halfway competent. Like, it's probably the most, like, news-based of the generic search engine news sites. The other ones are more, like, about SEO. This is more, like, news. I don't really I'm not super interested in following that kind of news personally. Like, I don't quite see the point. But if it seems like it is of the sites that are basically just, like, search engine news funnels, it seems like the best one out there of the 4 that are on this list. SE Roundtable has a kind of nice gimmick. Other than that, it's pretty generic. Search Engine Watch and Search Engine Journal both seem like glorified link farms for SEO companies. They're all right. Like, I didn't see anything on them that was, like, blatantly false or, like, completely guru trash. They don't seem to mislead anyone, at least for the most part, so I'd put them in D tier. Neil Patel, like, he might go... I would put him in C... I would put him in, like, C. If his content isn't stolen, then it would belong in B tier. If it is stolen, then he belongs in, like, D tier. Like, it would depend on how much was stolen. If you don't care that he, like, has probably stolen people's content, then I'd put him in B tier, and you could even read him if you're a novice. If you do care about that, then I guess he could be in, like, F tier. Like, he could be anywhere between, like, F tier and, like... I wouldn't put him in F tier, because here's the thing. I would definitely put him above Matthew Woodward, because Neil Patel is at least saying stuff that's true. So if his content's, like, really basic, or it's stolen, it's kind of like, well, at least he's not also, like, creating fucking SEO myths about, like, completely unsubstantiated claims, which is what you see on the Matthew Woodward site, so that's F tier. Neil Patel, even if he, like, raped 1 million babies, he would still be, like, E tier. Like, I would not put it, like, at least he's not misleading people. So Neil Patel would be, I'd put him in, like, C or B tier, like, fine noob content, if you don't care that he steals content. Otherwise, probably he's like D tier. I mean, it would depend on how much content is stolen. Probably Neil Patel is the most controversial position on this list. I wonder if other people have opinions on Matthew Woodward. I think, like, I didn't expect to be, like, so, like, this site is terrible. I thought it would be at least okay, but, like, it was, like, by far the worst on this list. Like, it's really, really guru-y, and to the point where it's, like, just spreading myths, so I have to put it in F tier. There's nowhere else it can go. Everything else is, like, pretty adequate, except Backlinko and Ahrefs that are actually good. They actually have data. They're both pretty decent. Tom Anthony's good. Alright, definitive answer given. Thread LLC. Post in the fucking comments if you want to question this list. And what I'm going to do is I'll post a bunch of links below this, links to the various articles that were shown in this post, and some other context for, like, whatever the hell was mentioned in this video. Alright, get the fuck out of here.